Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the third installment of the how to build a grow room from start to finish. Now you're probably wondering why I'm in the dark. Well, let's shine some light on that subject. And that's why. So we got the lights hooked up, and you can't see me because it is actually so bright that everything is blacked out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the lights, and I will just be a silhouette. So what these lights are 8 bulb. They are 8 bulb T5 grow fixtures. Each one is 432 watts. They are made by Viva Grow. Awesome price for excellent quality. Now, I know I'm going to get this quite a bit. Luke, where'd you get the lights? I actually got them at a Cyber Monday deal on eBay. So you probably won't find a price like this anywhere. But the thing is that I was going to stress before we get started with these specifics is that you want to get good quality, because if you skimp on quality, you're going to have mediocre results. You want the best results possible. So let's check out these lights now. So as you can see, the lights here are 4 feet long. They take up the entire bay here. Worked out perfectly. We have our bay completed and filled with our lights. We're going to then construct a grow table under here for the hydroponic setup here. We had the electrician come and install half of the lights here for a plug. Made them really nice and accessible by putting a plug up there for us, which was great. And then actually put half the lights there. Now the reason why we did that is because this is really important for safety features. We did not want to draw, 864 watts. We are already, here, let's put it this way. I'm already drawing 864 watts from just this one socket here. If I were to do all of these, that would be 1,730 something watts of power. Way too much to be safely drawing from one socket. So we actually have 2 wiring going from, you have this socket here that's maxed out. This is on its own cord. And then this is on its own power cord as well, going back to the circuit box. So in the case that this would overheat, it would break the circuit breaker before it overheated. So that's a huge safety concern, especially when it's indoor growing. So that's why we did that. So now that we're safe, we will still be drawing a fair amount of power, but nothing enough to overheat it to even cause the risk of powering or of burning the house down. So that's really safe, and you want to do that. You do not want to run this many lights. Now, of course, you can go with a 2-foot option. You can go with a 4 bulb option. You can go with a 6 bulb option. There are so many out there, and this was basically fitting my growing needs here. This is a 8-foot by 4-foot section, so you have 32 beautiful feet of grow space, and it's going to grow effectively very well. Now, here's what we're going to talk about. So what you want to do when you position your lights, you want to make sure that they're in a spot that you can raise them and lower them. I had them on a really great chain system here. I can simply just unhook them from this main S hook, or just not an S hook, but just a regular regular hook like that, and it just screws into the wood. And then I can just unhook it and drop it down however far I want. This is a really cheap way to do it, and that way I can get my lights as close as possible. Because really, when you're growing lights, you want them to have them effectively growing well, you want them to be no more than about 4 to 6 inches away from the lights. You can grow them, way down here. It just doesn't really grow them at the best of their ability, because the further away you are from the lights, the more the power drops off. So you're really the growing potential is going to drop off drastically if you're like a foot away from the lights. Still grow them, but your plants might get a little leggy. So I like to keep them as close as possible to the lights. Another thing that's very nice about these is it actually has 4 switches to control 4 ballasts. You see back there here, I can actually, since these are swinging and free moving, I can actually slide in between here. which is nice if I have to do any maintenance or whatever. And what's really nice is I can actually shut off whichever lights I want. So this light is effectively off because all the switches are turned off. However, if I want only, one bay on, that controls 2 lights. So 2 lights are on, 4 lights are on, 6 lights are on, 8 lights are on. This is going to save power if you don't need all of the lights, which is nice. And then another thing that we're going to talk about is the lights themselves. So underneath here, we're going to look at the lights. You have the T5 bulbs, like I said, but the crucial part is knowing what you're growing. Now, what I like to do is maximum output for hydroponics. So I'm growing under 6,500 Kelvin bulbs. Each bulb is a high output 53 watt T5 bulb. All that kind of stuff can be found online and you can read more about it. But basically, you want to have the high output bulbs. They make I forget what they're called, but they're a super high output. Really not necessary. These are going to do just great. And they do put out, a decent amount of heat. I can feel the warmth, but it's not hot. So if you have your plants, at that 4-inch mark, it's not going to it's not going to burn them. It's going to just be warm, maybe 75, 80 degrees. It's like a pretty warm summer day. And of course, we're going to have a fan in here, so we're going to be blowing and recycling air to keep it nice and cool as well. So that's great as well. Now, the lights themselves, the reason why they're 6,500 Kelvin is because a lot of people are going to ask this as well. What's the difference? Well, I find, I go with pretty stupid, kind of growing for dummies rules. So 6,500 Kelvin is going to be your growing phase, so your leafing phase. And since I'm growing lettuce, kale, and spinach, and greens basically, greens is all leaf. And so leaves, you want the more blue light. And that's seen by the 6,500 Kelvin. You can look up a light scale or a Kelvin color scale online, and you can see that something like a 2,400 Kelvin is nothing. It's more of like a reddish scale, and like a 4,500 Kelvin is more of like an orangish red. And the further you get on the scale, or the higher you get towards 6,500 Kelvin, it gets more and more blue. Now, if you're growing something like stuff that requires fruiting, like a tomato, let's say, you're going to want to put in about 3 or 4 bulbs that are of lower Kelvin. And that's just because you need the red light for fruiting, and that gets a lot more complicated than what I'm really going to get into right now. However, if you have any questions, you can ask. I'd be glad to answer questions, but I'm not a professional by any means. I'm going by, like I said, growing indoors for dummies. So I'm by no means a know-it-all. I'm just trying to bring you guys the information that I know to help you guys and kind of inspire you guys as well. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's pretty short, pretty quick, but lights are really important. And the thing that I want to end on is that the lights, since they are the most important part, you really do want to get the lights that are going to do the job. You can go with an older compact fluorescent setup. I have a video on how I made those. I can post a link. It's not the best quality video. It was a long time ago, but it serves its purpose, and the lights still work really well, and I actually used them up until this year, and I still probably will use them in the springtime to start my seedlings. This is strictly for the hydroponics. It really looks nice. It's nice and neat, and they hold their value well as well. The homemade setups, they're great for using them yourself, but if you try to sell them when you're done, they're just not, they're not gonna really hold their value like you'd hope. So it just kind of, it's nice if you're looking for short term, because I don't know when I'm going to sell these. Probably I might never sell them, but it is nice to know that if you ever do go to sell them, that there is a demand for growing stuff indoors, and they do hold their value. So that's one good thing. But the other thing that I was going to talk about is that, for anything about this series, because this is part 3, so we're almost done. We still have 2 more. The grow bed build, and then also putting in air circulation and basically ventilation. So that's important as well. But this is very important because you have to look at kind of a scale. People were always wondering like, oh, what's the most important part? Is it the paint? Is it the ventilation? Is it, you know, the lights or whatever? You know, kind of put that into perspective for me. So I wanted to answer that before I ended, and to say that if you can't master the paint, right? Like let's say you can't get the nice white paint that you really want. The lights are about 80% of the equation. If you have a black room with black paint and you have these lights, they're still going to grow very well for you. Some of the wasted light might not bounce back on your plants like mine is, but sometimes you can't always make it ideal. And so the first thing I'd say is make sure the lights are good. Then you can work on about 5% walls, 5% ventilation, and then, you know, 10% whatever else, you know. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that the lights are the most vital part, and anyone will say that. So you just want to make sure that you do get the lights for the job, because 80%, in my opinion, I'd rather have the 80% than paint my walls white and have that be my 10%. So your grow room is definitely based around the lights. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, post them. I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. Like I said, I'm not a professional. This is you know, a new venture for me, so it's a learning experience for me as well as for you. I've done a fair amount of research, but you're never too experienced to learn something new, and I am by no means an expert, so I'm learning every day. So thank you. If you have any tips, post them in the comments box below. To be honest, I actually get a lot of information from you, and that helps me. And I also get help from people at hydroponic stores. Excuse me. Whoa. I call up, I have a couple hydroponic specialists that I call up, and they give me some really great tips. One being Chicago Roots Hydroponics. So definitely, you know, if you have any questions, definitely call them. They're a wealth of information, and they will help you out so much. So we actually made a video of us visiting that about, I think it was last year. We visited Chicago Roots Hydroponics twice, I think. So yeah, cool place. So they're really good, and they're always good for their 2 cents and information. So I appreciate that. If you're watching, guys, from Chicago Roots, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm out of here, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you later. See ya. Bye.